Welcome to the Latched On Podcast. The Latched On Podcast is about the outdoors in Appalachia. Everything from hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, bushcraft, and woodsmanship, and digging into the depths of what makes this area of Appalachia so unique as a whole. It's time to strap in for the Latched On Podcast.
Hey guys, this is Zach. I was just getting on here, and we figured a couple good season episodes would be to hear a deer season story from last year of when we got whatever deer we want to talk about harvesting. So last year, 2022, was the deer season, and hunted. I was deployed the year before, so I didn't get to hunt at all that season. So I come back. And the summer of 2022, in that season, I was ready to hit it pretty hard, and I really, really wanted to harvest a archery buck was my goal, and just a mature deer. I didn't have any crazy specifications. So season kicks in last year, October, and I hunted stinking hard, and I probably spent well over 40 hours, maybe more than that, probably closer to 2 weeks, honestly, probably closer to 80 hours in the stand with a bow in my hand. And never had any close encounters with bucks. Had plenty of young bucks, plenty of does. Some, we even walking under the stand. Had one encounter with a really nice, probably 8 or 9 point. And this was during the early rut. He was dogging a doe, and he come into about 60 yards, and the doe caught wind of me, and she turned around and went back the way she came. And he just followed her. He never knew I was there. Didn't get a shot off at him, obviously, but had that good encounter. So fast forward through the rut, didn't get anything, and then rifle season kicks in late November, and it goes into last year or this season I'm talking about. It went, I think December 3rd was the last day of season for rifle season. So not having any of them encounters with the close enough encounters with the bow, I was like, all right, let's pick up the rifle and see what we can do. So I grabbed my 30-30. It was my grandfather's. I've killed my first deer with it. I've killed a few deer with it. And go up on the mountain, and I'm able to hunt a lot of mornings because where my kids are in school, I can go hunt in the morning, and I can just come out, a little after lunchtime, and get time to get changed and go get the kids from school. So I'm pretty fortunate to get to hunt quite a few mornings that way. So December 2nd, 2022, I go way up on the mountain, and I picked a spot on Spartan Forge, a ridge that I really, really just wanted to get to. I did go down there and camp during early November with a bow, and wasn't able to close any deals. But I hadn't went this far back where I camped down there, because I backpacked in on foot, and I was able to get down there December 2nd, and I hike about little over 2 miles past where anybody can park. There's no other access, and hike about 2 miles in. It was after daylight by the time I get to my stand. Or my stand location. I was on a mobile setup, so I had my stand on my back. I like to still hunt a lot when I'm using a rifle, because you have a lot more opportunity to shoot standing, and if you do bump a deer, a lot of times they'll stop within rifle range. So I wait till daylight to usually walk in during rifle season, and get to where I was going, and there was quite a few ravines I had to get up and down, and I was dripping. I was pouring sweat by the time I got to where I wanted to be, and got up there, and I was like, this looks like a good spot that a buck might like to bed. I found what looked to be a couple singular beds that I think a buck might have used to bounce around. I found a really small scrape. It was only about the size of a basketball, but it was really fresh, and a really small rub, like the size of my thumb. And I was like, well, there's a buck coming here somewhere at some point in time, but it was all really fresh sign. And I was like, well, maybe I'll capitalize on a late rut or something. So I set up probably after 8 a.m. and set up in a tree about 2 sticks high. Let's see. And let's see if I can set this up. I'm on a ridge that jets from the south to the north. So I'm on the north point of this ridge, and the ridge system is coming from the south, if that makes sense to anybody. And I'm right at the tip of it. I'm right at the top tip of it. And I can see all the way down this ridge and a little bit to the left on the flat of it, and then I can see down to the right side, down the hill some, but not, it gets pretty thick pretty quick. So I'm sitting up there around 9:30ish. I see, I can't hear, but I can see a doe and a fawn on a trail that's under the right side of that ridge, which would have been in the, east side. So the east side of the ridge, headed to the north. I see them, but I didn't hear them. And I was like, well, there's a deer trail down there. Okay, I'll have to keep my eye out down there because I couldn't hear them. So that was the 9:30ish in the morning. Fast forward 10:30ish. I can't hear it, but I see another deer down there on that same trail. And there was a spike. And I have like a 10-yard window that if I see a deer on that trail that I could make a good clean shot on it. But like I said, I can't hear, so I don't have any prep. So I have to keep my eyes that direction. Of course, all the leaves have fell by this point. It's really crunchy. It was a good dry bluebird day. And I'm like, well, crap, I'm going to have to keep my eyes down there because if a good buck walks by. But I was sitting there thinking, I was like, should I tear down and move over? I was like, I've seen, 2 separate sets of deer on that trail. Like, should I move? Should I move? And last year I was very mobile and I moved a lot, almost to a fault. And I'm all about being mobile. And if you need to move 20 yards, move 20 yards. I'm all about that. But last year I did it almost so much to a fault. So I was like, no, just trust your gut. Just sit right here. There's a reason you picked this spot. Just stick with it. So I did so, didn't see or hear anything. And then about 11:30, I was like, well, I've seen a deer, the last 2 hours around the 30-minute mark. So let's see what's up. So I'm looking down that same trail and hoping, just maybe luck would have it, a deer, a good mature buck would go through the same, an hour later. So I'm staring off down through there, and a few minutes go by, I don't see anything, and I hear something. I'm like, well, wait a second, I hear it. I look over to my left, and there's a down tree about 70 yards in front of me, and it was a big old growth oak that was down, and all I see was tines with that big buck walk bounce just on the other side of it, and I was like, holy cow, that's a shooter buck. And it's over to my left. It's not even on that deer trail. It's coming right at me. And all of a sudden, the first thing that hit my head is, where's my wind? And I felt the wind hitting me in the face. And that's one of the main reasons I set up on that spot, because the wind would be pushing down over the backside of that ridge. And if anything crossed that ridge, hopefully it wouldn't wind me. Well, he was walking with the wind to his butt. He was walking straight to me. I get him in the scope. I don't even look at his antlers again. I just know they're tall. Or he's got a great size rack that I'd like to harvest. And he's coming. I keep trying to find a spot to shoot him between the trees. It's an old growth forest. There's not much undergrowth on top of that ridge where I was at. And I kept thinking, I was like, don't rush a shot. Don't try to shoot him between a couple trees. He's walking straight to you. He has no idea you're here. Just give it a second. So I wait, and I find a big open gap where he's headed straight to. And I assume that this is my assumption. I think what he was doing, he was walking down that ridge with the wind to his back so he could smell anything behind him. He could see what was in front of him, so he felt safe. And it was, like I said, 11:30-ish during the day, and the sun was up on a bluebird day. I think the thermals were rising, and what he was doing is he was running those ridge tops, and he was checking the rising thermals to see if there was any late does coming in to heat on either side. So he could really check an area really quick by running those ridge tops during the rut. Or, during that time. So I think that's why he was up so late, that late in the year. And to me, that makes sense why he was doing it, because the thermal, like I said, it was a good sunny day. The thermals were rising at that point, even though it was a cooler day. And it was a way for him to very efficiently search an area for any late hot does. So he was coming straight to me, and about 55 yards, I make a broadside double lung on him with the 30-30. He turns and runs straight in front of me like a round. And I've already shot him once, so I rack the rifle. I shoot him again on the run, and I'm bleating at him, trying to get him to stop, but he's running as hard as I've seen a deer run before. Shoot him on the move, or on the run, and then he runs around to my right side, because he was coming at me, but he ended up on my left side when I made the first shot. I shot him almost directly in front of the stand on the right, or the second shot. He runs around to my right side, and I spin all the way around on the stand, and my feet are dangling off the side of the stand. And he stopped, and I'm bleating at him the whole time. He stops for a split second, and right before he runs off the back side of the ravine, away from the direction I need to go. And I was like, I don't need him to go over this ravine, because it just adds that much more work. And he stopped for a split second. I double lunged him again on the right side, and he wobbled for a split second, and he hit the dirt and never felt a thing. So I was fortunate for making some good shots on him and getting him down. And then I just stopped and was like, I just killed the biggest buck of my life. So I sat there for a few seconds, get my wits about me. Mind you, there's no cell phone service. There's zero cell phone reception where I'm at, and it's 11:37 during the day. I have to be out. I have to be heading out of the woods by no later than 2:30 to get my kids from school. So I start tearing down after I let myself calm down a little bit. Pack my stuff up, walk over to him, and realize he was an awesome old mature deer. He was a 10-point. He grossed out. He had a broken G3. He broke, I think, one of his brow tines off too, and then he broke the tip off another one on the left. So I can't remember which one's which. So he was an old fighter buck. He had a puncture, I think, on his neck, and then he had another puncture in his eye from fighting, and his face was almost completely gray. So he was just a really good old mountain, Appalachia, Virginia mountain buck. So I was super happy with that harvest. Set up my phone on video mode and posed with him, so I could screenshot a couple good photos with him since I was by myself. Can't call anybody or anything like that. So tag the deer and then start dragging him across that ridge because I didn't want to gut him up there. And which at that point I realized I was going to have to pack him out because there's no way I could get him up through the other ravines. So, but I knew I didn't want to start cleaning him up on top of that ridge because I was hoping that was a buck bed that I could return to year after year. And there's a lot of bear in the area, so I didn't want to draw any bear and coyotes and stuff up there to start kind of blow out that spot. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what went through my head. Got him to the other side, and then he drugged me down that ravine. He pretty much drugged me to the bottom of that ravine, and started cleaning him. And I started doing it just like an elk, like you would an elk, and start quartering him out. And I get his hind legs out of him, and I pack them to the others up the ravine and up to the access road, get them over there. I come back down, and then I realize I don't know how to skin the buck out to where, because I knew I wanted to get him mounted. So, and I never skinned a buck to get mounted before. And I realized, I was like, I don't know how to do this. So I ended up just leaving the front half of the deer together. And so I ended up having to gut him anyway. So I gutted him, and I had the whole front half of the deer with, a good portion of his spine and everything on him. So I carry him to the top of the hill because I can't drag him. I'm out of water because I had to cross all those ravines that morning, so I'd already drank all my water by this point. My muscles are cramping, like I'm hurting, and get hit. Finally, this is hours. Like all this process is taking a couple hours. Get him to the other top, and then I realized I got to get to the truck with the first load because there's enough cell phone signal at the truck to get a short call out. You can get a phone call out. Maybe sometimes you got to stand in the bed of the truck to do it. So I hike the first load out. I take his hindquarters and my bow, and I had my stand strapped to the outside of the pack too. And like I said, I'm out of water completely. I start getting there. I ended up having to stash my stand under a fallen tree, and drop a pin to where I wouldn't lose it, and then just get the first load of meat out. Get a phone call off to my wife. Luckily, she was able to leave work early, go get the kids from school, so I could come back and get the rest of the deer. I don't have a jet sled or a deer cart at this time or nothing like that. She called me back before, and I'm at the truck. I have plenty of water in the truck, so I'm down in water. I'm drinking like literally liters of water, trying to rehydrate. I cannot find a liquid IV in my truck. I always keep them in there, and I must have drank them all. So I'm trying to force hydrate, but my body's already too far gone at this point. It can't really process the water. And she calls me back right before I start hiking back in to get, my stand and the rest of the deer and everything. And she said, I called my dad. He said, and asked him if he would watch the kids so I can come in and help you get the deer out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got the best wife ever. She's going to come up and drag a deer, even though she doesn't like the killing part of hunting. She enjoys the aftermath, but she doesn't like the killing part. And then I was like, okay, that'd be great. So I was like, I'll wait at the truck and I'll come out and get you. Cause she didn't know where I was at, or she knew where, I drop her a pin, but she don't know how to get there. I was like, she has a pin. If I'm getting off on a tangent, I always leave her like a pin or coordinates of where I'm going hunting, so she can give it to someone if I don't come home or don't respond. But her herself doesn't usually know how to get there. So I was like, okay, I'll come get you. And then she calls me back while I'm loading in the truck, and she's like, my dad offered to come help you instead of me having to do it. I was like, okay. So I still have to go and get him. Mind you, my father-in-law isn't isn't a hunter at all. But he was more than happy to come help me. So I go and pick him up, go back in, and we hike in, and I get my stand in that deer, and me and him take turns carrying it because it didn't make sense to drag it just the way it was. And so my awesome father-in-law come and help me haul that deer out. We didn't get out until after dark that night. So it's a pretty cool story, and it taught me a lot of things. I'm really happy with how I harvested them. The mount is actually almost done. I got local taxidermist Zach Baker's taxidermy. He's almost got that done. I did a American flag with some military stuff on the backside mount. I don't know if you've ever seen one, but if you haven't, they're pretty cool in my opinion. So it looks really good. I should be bringing that home actually any day now. That's the mount I chose to do, and me and my family's been enjoying every bit of the meat that deer's given us for the whole year since, and learned a lot from packing deer out. I went to my taxidermist and had him show me exactly how he wants me to skin a deer out. So if you haven't ever done that, that's something you need to do. YouTube is a great tool, but your taxidermist, if you plan on having a buck mounted, go to your taxidermist because they might like it a different way. And that's what I did, because what YouTube showed me isn't what he wanted me to do. So I learned that. Now there's a liquid IV in every kit that I have. Every bag that I have has at least 1 or 2 in it. My truck has 2 or 3 stashed throughout. I also bought some water drops, and I keep it in my hunting kit now so I can refuel in the creeks and drop some water drops in there to purify my water so I don't get sick in the backcountry, but I also always have water with me, or a way to acquire water. So just a few little tips. It's a little bit of a wild story, but I like hunting deep. I like hunting public land. I enjoy the hard work that goes into it, because every time I eat anything that has deer meat in it, and I know how much work and dedication and hard work I put into it. So don't give up, and always put in that hard work. Always do the harder thing, and usually it will pay off. If you can take anything from that story, I hope you do. Buck grossed out to about 118 inches, but he is a trophy any day of the book in this house. So anything else, if you want to, reach out to me. If you want to hear more about the story or see any pictures of it, reach out to me on Instagram or anything like that.